Every night is a doorway to a new story you only need to listen. Good evening, friends. I'm Mr. Narratory, and I'll be your voice tonight as we drift gently towards sleep. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep a little easier, consider liking and subscribing. It really means a lot. Tell me in the comments, what time is it for you right now? And do you have any little bedtime rituals? Now, settle in, get comfortable, close your eyes if you'd like, because it's time for tonight's story. It was added without fanfare. No press release, no updated signage, not even an announcement on the digital boards at the station. Just a new early morning train, 4:03 a.m., listed under Test Service. That's what caught my attention. I work nights, the kind of hours no one wants, dispatching rail logistics from a tiny desk buried in a concrete office under Platform 2. It's quiet work, boring most nights, but it gives me full access to the route matrix, GPS ping data, and internal logs. So when I saw a new line number X100 active in the system, but without a listed driver or arrival timestamp, I got curious. I thought it was a mistake, something temporary, an internal shuffle they'd fix after a few runs. But it didn't go away, and no one I asked seemed to know who had authorized it. The schedule showed it originating from Yard 12, a track spur we decommissioned back in 2006, and making a full loop through the South Tunnel. That tunnel was supposed to be sealed, unused since the flooding. I remember the shutdown. 2 workers never came out. I still see their names on the memorial plaque near the break room vending machines. Yet this new train was listed as active, with an automated status line. Passenger ready. I pulled the station cam from Yard 12, expecting to see darkness and rusted track. Instead, I watched in real time as a silver car pulled slowly into place, lights dimmed, doors shut. No engine hum, no driver visible, just a single car, too clean for its surroundings, like it had been placed there. I checked the GPS. The unit pinged as expected. Shown 100 ran its loop, hit every station between 4:03 and 4:49 a.m., then disappeared from the grid until the next night. I thought maybe I was misreading an old file, some test from a previous era still echoing in the logs, until I saw it. A man boarding. The cam at Harlow Street Station, dead middle of the loop, caught a single passenger stepping onto shown 100. No timestamp, no ticket scan. Just a figure in a long coat walking onto the car like he knew it was coming. I ran his face through the employee database. Nothing. Public transit card? Not registered. I checked the feed the next day. Same train, same loop, same man. Again, no scan, no driver, just there. Waiting, boarding, leaving. I clipped the video and sent it to my manager. She said she'd look into it. But later that night, the video was gone from my folder. Erased. Even the backup. But the logs were still there. Joan 100 kept running. And soon, it wasn't just the same man. New faces, different people, always one at a time, each boarding the train like they'd been told exactly when and where it would arrive. No one ever left the car. I watched it loop 10 nights in a row. Door opens, 1 passenger boards. Train continues, no disembark, no arrival. Just a loop that feeds. I stopped asking questions. Until this morning, when I came into work and found a manila envelope on my chair. No name. Inside, a printed route schedule. Zone 100, week ahead. My name circled on the manifest. Listed as scheduled. Boarding point, Harlow Street. Date, tomorrow. Time, 3 a.m. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with the lights off, the envelope open in front of me, and the printed manifest flattened under a paperweight like it might crawl away if I looked away too long. My name, full name, middle initial included, was listed in plain black ink, not handwritten but typeset, clean, like a report. It said, Zone 100 Manifest Primary Boarding Entry. David M. Call for 3 a.m. Harlow Street Platform 1, Seat 8. I never told anyone about the train, not really. I sent one email to my manager, and that was weeks ago. It was deleted before I could follow up. I never uploaded the footage. I never spoke the line number aloud. But somehow, I'd been scheduled. Like this thing, whatever it was, knew I'd seen enough. Like watching it was the first step, and documenting it was the second. I don't know what the third is. I kept checking the station map, hoping I'd find some glitch, some explanation, some automated routine calling my name in error. But there was no error, just precision. The train's logs showed last night's loop ran clean. 3 passengers this time, all listed, all with boarding points spread across different stations. One name I recognized, a former dispatcher. Retired in 2017. I remembered his going away party. He died 3 years ago, but there he was on the manifest. Printed like fact. I checked the footage again. He boarded calmly, looked older, eyes sunken, coat buttoned to the neck, but it was him. Same gait, same cane, same red scarf he used to wear on cold nights. He walked through the open door, paused, looked directly at the camera, then stepped inside. The train pulled away. No driver visible, no engine noise. Just a hum, low, constant, mechanical in a way that doesn't sound like machines anymore. More like something remembering how to be mechanical. I printed everything, took screenshots, tried to back up the files. But sometime around 2:45 a.m., my monitor flashed and the drive disconnected. I rebooted. All logs from the past week wiped. All footage gone. The printed manifest still there, untouched, still listing my name. I grabbed my coat and drove to Harlow Street. Told myself I'd get there early. Prove the train didn't exist. Watch the loop come and go without anything real arriving. But when I stepped onto the platform, I felt it. Not cold, not pressure, sink, like the space around me was adjusting itself to match something I hadn't yet become. I waited. Minutes passed. Then the lights flickered. Not power surges adjustments. The clock reset. 2 a.m. And then, without sound, without warning, the train pulled in. One silver car. No markings. Door already open. Lights dim, but steady. I should have run. I should have screamed. But instead, I took a step forward. Just one. That's when I saw it. My reflection. Not in the window, in the doorframe. Like the glass remembered me differently. My hair shorter. My jacket zipped. My face calm. I froze. and from the shadows inside the car, my voice said, "Seat 8 is ready." I didn't step on. I wish I could say it was bravery, or instinct, or some buried survival reflex. But the truth is, I just couldn't move. Not forward, not back. I was held there, rooted, like something was measuring the depth of my hesitation. The voice that said my seat was ready didn't repeat itself. It didn't need to. It had already confirmed enough, and then the door closed, slow and silent, like a breath being drawn inward. The train didn't accelerate. It just wasn't there anymore. No sound, no blur, no sense of movement non-blink, and it was gone. I stood on the platform with my hands shaking, staring at where it had been. The digital board overhead still read 4-3. Stuck. The air tasted different. Like copper and damp concrete, the smell of an unfinished place. I drove home in a daze, expecting to feel relief or guilt or maybe even fear, but what I felt was absence. Like something had expected to be inside me and had left the seat unfilled. I checked the logs. My name had disappeared, not removed, replaced. A new name in seat 8DM. Call, failed sync. Observation only. I didn't sleep. At 6:00 a.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, there was no voice, just the low hum from the train, stretching for over 3 minutes. No clicks, no background. Just that tone, as if the call itself was an extension of the track. That afternoon, I went to the office to scrub every trace of what I'd found. But when I logged in, the terminal displayed a message I didn't recognize. Known 100-node monitor. Active. I had never seen that interface before. It listed metrics, coherence, drift, passenger retention, memory alignment, every entry pulsing in low red. And beneath it all, one message in bold: "You saw your reflection first." That's how it begins. I killed the terminal, shut it down, pulled the plug, didn't matter. When I rebooted, the message was gone, but the word "observer" had been burned into the monitor's corner. Not etched, darkened, like it had grown there. I left early. When I got home, there was a ticket in my mailbox. Not a bill, not a letter. A printed train ticket. Harlow Street, South Tunnel, Seat 8, issued 3 days ago. No return listed. The stub was already torn. That night, I dreamt in third person. I saw myself board the train. Sit in Seat 8, hands calm, eyes forward. Not afraid, not hesitant. And across from me sat another version older. Same face, same coat. Watching me like a mentor watches a student learn their lines. Neither of us spoke, but when the train stopped, only he stepped off. And as the door closed, I heard myself whisper from my own mouth. It rides until someone else sees it. I stopped going to work. The system had already tagged me as observer, and I knew what that meant. Now there's no forgetting once the designation sets in. I threw the ticket in the trash, unplugged my router, removed the battery from my phone, and covered every reflective surface in my house. Not out of paranoia, but out of respect for the boundary, for the space the train occupies between what you remember seeing and what you haven't yet admitted you saw. but the silence didn't help. I started hearing the hum at night, low and constant, from behind walls that didn't face the street. I heard my own footsteps echo after I'd stopped walking, and sometimes, just barely, I saw movement at the far edge of my vision, like a figure waiting behind a half-closed door, not watching me, mimicking me. I started writing things down to stay grounded time of day, what I ate, what I said, but soon I noticed the handwriting shift. Not suddenly, gradually. My loops tighter, the spacing uniform, like the pen was training me into a more efficient version of my own voice. I returned to Harlow Street once, just to see if the platform was still there. It was. But now, the schedule board was blank, completely dark, no power, and the station had been closed due to maintenance. A sign zip-tied to the entrance. No logos, no names, just ARIA offline. I tried asking the transit authority for records. They told me Yard 12 was never reactivated, that there was no such line as Zone 100. But when I pressed, the man on the phone paused and said very carefully, "Whatever you saw, don't look at it again. Don't recognize yourself in it. That's how they copy the pattern." I didn't ask what he meant. I just hung up. And that night, when I looked in the bathroom mirror still covered in cloth, I noticed a tear had formed. Not like something cut it. Like it had peeled from the inside. A long, thin seam across the center. And behind it, I saw light. Pale, flickering light, like the interior of a train car with no windows. I didn't uncover it. I didn't need to. That was the warning. Once the train sees you see yourself inside it, the transfer begins. I sat on the couch until morning, tried to stay awake. But at 3 a.m., I opened my eyes and I was on the platform. No shoes, no phone. Just standing there, calmly, as the silver car pulled in. I didn't question how I got there. I didn't panic. Because I knew this was the copy. The moment my memory of the place was clean enough for the train to project it fully, the door opened. No sound. And inside, I saw me, already sitting in seat 8, already smiling, not welcoming, not threatening, just complete. And I knew what would happen next. I'd walk away, and somewhere, the next version would start looking for answers, the same way I did, until it stepped close enough to see its own reflection, look back too early. After that night, I stopped trusting time. Clocks still moved, but I couldn't feel them pass. Hours blurred. Days came without warning. Sometimes I'd wake up and the sun was already setting, with no memory of what I'd done or whether I'd spoken to anyone. I tried calling a friend just to hear a human voice. He answered, cheerful at first, then paused halfway through my name, said, "You called yesterday. Same time," said the exact same words. I know I hadn't, but he told me quietly, nervous, that the voice had sounded off like it was trying too hard to match my tone. That it asked him where he'd last seen me in person. I thanked him and hung up. Sat still in my apartment for 2 hours. And then my phone rang. The caller ID said my own number. I didn't answer. I couldn't. But the voicemail left behind was my voice, tired, flat, whispering, Don't go to the platform. Let me finish. It didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like a request from someone just one step behind or ahead. I played it twice, then deleted it. But the message stayed in my head, not just the words, the rhythm. I started hearing that cadence in my own thoughts. I'd reach for a glass and hear, just behind the motion, a faint internal murmur. Let me finish. I stopped writing in my own journals. Started finding new entries anyway. Not whole pages, just phrases scribbled in the margins. Transfer incomplete. The next version will comply. And once. Seat 9, reserved. I didn't remember writing that, and I had never seen a second seat listed on any manifest. The train had always taken one per loop. Always one. Until now. I checked the latest logs. Zone 100 still running, still looping. But now, at 3 a.m., 2 pings registered instead of 1. 2 door opens, 2 entries, no exits. I scrolled down, saw my name again. Not as observer. This time, the column read, active conductor, memory relay host. I tried logging out. Access denied. I powered down. The screen stayed lit. And below the blinking cursor, one new line appeared. Don't watch the second one speak. That's the first signal of overwrite. I shut the monitor off, ripped the plug from the wall, sat in the dark and breathed until morning. And when I went to brush my teeth, I saw it again, the tear in the mirror. Wider now, light bleeding from behind the glass. Not white, not warm. Train light, dim and pulsing. This time, something stood inside. A figure in silhouette, matching my height. My posture, arms at its sides. Still, it didn't mimic me. It just waited and scrawled across the lower corner of the mirror in backwards handwriting was a single word. Bored. I stopped sleeping altogether. It wasn't fear. It was preservation. Because sleep now meant the chance of blinking into transit, and I couldn't risk that, not yet. Not while the copy was still standing in the mirror like a photo waiting to be animated. I barricaded the door, covered the glass again, and unplugged everything with a signal. But isolation didn't stop it. The transfer had already begun. I saw it in the way my thoughts broke into mirrored, half-sown voice, narrating my day in real time, the others slightly behind, repeating the moments like a script rehearsal. I'd drink coffee and hear myself describing drinking coffee. Not thinking, saying, softly. Just beneath my hearing, I turned the TV on for noise, only to find the screen stuck on static. But within it, briefly, so briefly, I nearly missed it. I saw a single train car flicker into focus. No rails, just the car. Still, silver, door open, and inside, me again. Not seated this time. Standing in front of seat 9, watching something out of frame. When the image vanished, I replayed the footage. It wasn't there. I pressed pause. The static formed one clear word in the fuzz. Replace. That night, I opened the logbook again mine, or what used to be mine, and flipped back through entries I didn't remember writing. New annotations had appeared. Not typed, not printed, burned into the page like the paper had remembered the heat of their arrival. Passenger echo acquired. Conductor split initiated. Memory drift now tracking parallel. The last line was new. Seat 9 vocalizing, do not respond. My throat tightened because I knew what was coming. I set up a camera, sat in front of the mirror, waited at 3 a.m. The glass flickered not like a screen, but like water hit by vibration. And from behind it, the figure leaned forward. Same face, my face. But this one smiled, not like it recognized me, like it pitied me. Then it spoke, voice clear, smooth, steady. You were always going to sit here. I didn't answer. I recorded it, watched the footage back. But on the recording, there was no reflection, no movement. Just me, staring into a mirror, silent, alone. But I remembered hearing the words, and that's the worst part. The copy doesn't need to be seen to take hold. It only needs to be heard. I checked the camera again. The lens had melted. Soft edges. Plastic warped not by heat, but by friction. Like something had passed too quickly through it. I left the apartment that morning. Rented a motel off-grid. Cash. No ID. But when I opened the nightstand drawer, inside wasn't a Bible or a phone book. It was a single folded slip of paper with one typed line. Seat 9 is speaking now. Do not echo. I dropped it, ran water over my hands, tried to breathe. But when I looked in the bathroom mirror, my mouth was already moving, and the voice I heard wasn't mine. It was his. Clear, deliberate, saying only, repeat this when you wake. I woke up saying a sentence I didn't understand, not mumbling, not dreaming. I was sitting upright on the edge of the motel bed, eyes open, voice clear, reciting something in a language that made my skin crawl not because it was foreign, but because it sounded familiar in the wrong way, like hearing your own voice played backward at just the right pitch to trigger nausea. The words stopped mid-breath, and I felt it like being pulled out of someone else's mouth. I stumbled to the mirror, dreading what I'd see, but the reflection was normal. Still, me. But the timing was off again. I reached up, and the glass hand reached first, just barely. Enough to prove I wasn't alone. Enough to show me which version was leading. I'd lost the pace. I turned away, packed my things without thinking, but my movements were tight, practiced, like I'd rehearsed them dozens of times already, like the script had embedded. At the bottom of my bag, I found something I hadn't packed a printed schedule. Zone 100 internal assignment log. It listed boarding events going back decades, some marked as observed, others echoed. Then a column I hadn't seen before, split, complete. Dozens of names, dates, all ending with a status update. Conductor transferred seat 8, archived seat 9, active. I scanned for mine. It was there. Yesterday's date, status. Pending, final, vocal sync. And beneath it, speech recognized. Assimilation viable. That word assimilation settled in my stomach like ice. This wasn't about abduction. It wasn't about replacement. It was subsumption. A layered personality mine on top, his beneath. And when the voices finally aligned in rhythm, mine would just stop. I checked the mirror again, heart pounding. and this time the reflection smiled first. I hadn't moved, I hadn't blinked, but he had. And when he leaned forward, I didn't see myself. I saw the inside of the train, a windowless corridor, lights flickering, my coat on the hook, and behind me, in the reflection of a reflection, a second me walking calmly into frame. I staggered back, grabbed my phone. No signal, no GPS, just a single notification I hadn't opened. Final boarding confirmed. Doors will not close until sync is complete. The phone screen flashed white, then black, then loaded a photo seat 9, occupied. A man smiling, calm, still, eyes open, and on the headrest behind him, my name etched, permanent, like it had been there long before I ever saw the train. At the bottom of the screen, one line pulsed in low red. You speak now. He listens. I didn't return home. There was no point. I'd already seen what waited there in the mirrors, in the notebooks I hadn't written, in the chair that never faced the window until I walked past it. Instead, I drove. No destination, just movement. Like if I could stay between time zones, the sync couldn't finish, but even the road betrayed me. Every few hours, I'd pass a crossing. And there it was again, a single silver car, silent, unmoving, tucked behind chain-link fencing or abandoned underpasses. No wheels, no driver, just waiting. Once, at a stoplight, I looked into the rearview mirror and saw the interior of the train behind me. Seat 9, just barely visible, lit softly from above like it knew I needed to see it. My phone buzzed. I hadn't turned it back on. The screen displayed a single message. Do not look back unless you're ready to remember who wrote this loop. I threw the phone out the window, kept driving. Somewhere outside of town, I pulled into a rest area. I needed a bathroom, needed to feel grounded, needed a mirror that hadn't yet been compromised. I opened the door, looked into the scratched metal above the sink, and I saw two of me, not mirrored, side by side. One still, the other breathing slightly heavier, and both looking directly into me, not at me. Into, behind me, the stall door opened. No sound, just motion. I turned, heart racing, but there was nothing, just a folded paper on the floor. I picked it up. One line. The loop is always confirmed by the version that denies it. When I looked back into the mirror, there was only one of me again, but I wasn't sure which one had stayed, or which one had blinked. I left a rest stop. There was a note taped to my windshield. My own handwriting. A sentence I remembered writing in a journal I burned last week. If you hear your own voice telling you not to answer, it's already too late. That night I finally gave up, parked near the Old South Tunnel, waited for 3 a.m. The platform was empty. No boards, no lights, but the train pulled in. Silver, still, door open. This time, I didn't hesitate. I stepped in, walked down the aisle past seat 8, and there he was in 9. Me, wearing the same coat I'd thrown out last winter. He turned to face me, slowly. No menace, no smirk, just calm acceptance. I sat across from him without a word. And the moment I did, he said, "Do you remember what happens when both voices sync at the same time?" I didn't until I heard myself answer, "You stop needing a conductor." The track remembers itself. And that was it. The lights dimmed. The hum settled. The train moved, but not forward. Down. The train didn't move through the tunnel. It moved beneath memory. That's the only way I can explain it. There were no windows, no change in momentum, no turns or vibrations. But I could feel the motion not like travel, but like being paged through, like a file opening to its oldest readable state. I sat across from myself in seat 9, neither of us speaking, both listening to the same distant frequency humming just below the floorboards, a signal I now understood wasn't mechanical, it was archival. The train didn't carry people. It carried copies, preserved versions, echoes of behavior and voice and instinct, refined loop after loop until one aligned perfectly enough to stay. My other self, if that's even what he was, never blinked. He just mirrored my posture exactly. I raised a hand. So did he. I said, "Where are we going?" And he responded in unison, "To the version that speaks first." Not a location, a phase, a destination based on decision. I felt the train shift, not physically, cognitively, like the walls had reoriented themselves around a thought I hadn't had yet. Lights flickered, a tone sounded, then a message played overhead. Calm, male, no accent, and unmistakably, my voice. "You are now exiting the observer state. All previous inputs have been recorded." The lights pulsed once. My reflection stood. I stayed seated. That was the test. He stepped forward, nodded slightly, whispered, "You'll remember this as a decision you made, not a thing that happened to you." Then he walked into the next car. I rose to follow, but stopped at the threshold, because there, etched into the metal of the connecting door, was a list of names, mine among them, all marked transferred. And below it, in newer engraving, conductor identified cycle 742B. I touched the panel. It was warm, alive. The door opened without resistance, and I stepped through into an empty space. A loop of memory, scenes from my life flickering like film projections on either side of the aisle. Conversations I'd forgotten, moments I thought were dreams. A version of my father nodding to me across a train platform. A child waving through a mirror. All fragments, all playing back to someone who'd already lived them. Then the lights dimmed again, and a single phrase played in both ears simultaneously. "This is your route now. The next will board when the voice matches." I looked down. My hands were no longer shaking. I sat in seat 9, alone now. And in the reflection on the blank window across from me, I saw the platform, empty, still, waiting, until one shape began to form. Someone approaching the train, head tilted, jacket unzipped, face familiar. I didn't wave, I didn't smile. I just whispered the final cue. "Seat 8 is ready." It's quiet now. Not silent quiet in the way a room feels after you've said something you can't take back. When the echo has stopped but the air still knows what was spoken. I sit in seat 9, no longer wondering who I am in this process, no longer searching the faces in passing glass for recognition. there's no need. I've reached the final layer, the part where memory and identity stop trying to trade places and begin to cooperate. The train doesn't rattle anymore. It glides. It responds. It knows I've accepted what I am. Not the original, not the copy, but the record keeper. Every time the loop completes, another version approaches the door. I don't call to them. They already know. It's always someone with eyes like mine, posture like mine, hesitation trembling under the skin the way it once did in me. They don't have to speak. I only need to see whether the rhythm in their breath matches the one the train favors. If it does, I say the phrase. Sometimes it's seat 8. Sometimes it's another. I don't need to remember how many loops I've seen. I'm not on a schedule anymore. I am the schedule. When the conductor completes, the voice takes over. The track realigns. The train doesn't move between stations, it moves between readiness. That's all it ever was. A calibration. A delivery system for a self that no longer needs to wonder where it started. I hear the hum now, not under my feet but in my chest, like a reminder, like a steady pulse that doesn't belong to a body, but to a pattern that survived. Tonight, I see another figure waiting at the edge of the platform. This one pauses, like I did, looks left, then right, checks their hands. The hesitation is familiar, but it won't last. The loop is patient. It knows who belongs. And soon, that version will sit across from me, will feel the words forming before they choose to speak. And when they dowen, they ask the one question every version eventually does. I'll answer the way I was taught, the only way it works, calm, steady, certain. I'll say, you've made it through the day. Now it's time for something gentle.